The lie started on a Tuesday morning over coffee and toast. Sarah was scrolling through her phone while I read the news, our usual morning routine after 8 years of marriage. Everything felt normal, predictable even. That's what made what happened next so perfectly orchestrated. "I forgot to mention," she said, not looking up from her screen. "The girls want to do a camping trip this weekend. Up at Lake Morrison. You know how Rachel's been talking about getting back to nature since her divorce?" I nodded, still reading about the stock market. "Sounds good. You haven't been camping since college." "Exactly. It'll be fun. Just us girls, no phones, reconnecting with ourselves." She finally looked up, giving me that smile that used to make my day. "You don't mind, do you? I know we had that dinner with your parents on Sunday." "I'll reschedule. Mom will understand." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You deserve some time with your friends." She squeezed back, but something felt different. Her hand was cold, and she pulled away too quickly. At the time, I thought she was just excited about the trip. Now I know she was already planning my destruction. The rest of the week, she talked about the camping trip constantly. What to pack, what to cook over the fire, whether they should rent tents or bring sleeping bags. She even asked me to help her organize her gear, which I found endearing. My wife, who complained when the air conditioning was 2 degrees off, was suddenly embracing the great outdoors. Friday afternoon, I watched her load her car with camping supplies I'd helped her buy. A new sleeping bag, portable camping chairs, even a fancy camp stove. She'd spent $300 on gear for one weekend. I thought she was just being thorough. Turns out she was being generous with my money to make her story believable. "I'll miss you," she said, giving me a long hug by her packed car. "It's just 2 nights, but still. Have fun with the girls? Take lots of pictures." She laughed, a sound that seemed forced now that I think back on it. "Oh, you know me. I'm terrible with cameras. I'll probably forget to take any. I should have known then." Sarah took pictures of everything: her lunch, the sunset, random cats she saw on the street. The idea that she'd go camping and not document every moment should have been my first red flag. But I trusted her. 8 years of marriage, and I'd never had a reason not to. She kissed me goodbye, got in her car, and drove away. I stood in the driveway watching until her taillights disappeared around the corner. The last time I'd ever watch my wife leave our house as my wife. That evening, I ordered pizza and settled in for a quiet weekend. I'd planned to catch up on some work projects, maybe finally organize the garage. Bachelor weekend activities for a married man who thought his wife was sleeping under the stars with her girlfriends. Her phone went straight to voicemail when I called to say goodnight. "Already on Do Not Disturb mode," I muttered to myself. She really is embracing the digital detox. If I'd known what she was actually embracing, I would have saved myself 48 hours of ignorance. Saturday afternoon, I was in the garage organizing tools when my phone rang. Joe Martinez, my buddy from college who still lived in the area. We'd grab beers every few months and complain about mortgage payments and lawn care. "Hey man, are you sitting down?" Joe's voice sounded strange, careful in a way that immediately put me on alert. "I'm standing in my garage surrounded by rusty screwdrivers." "What's up?" "We need to talk." "Not over the phone." "Can you come over?" Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. "Joe, just tell me what's wrong." He was quiet for a long moment. "It's about Sarah." The screwdriver I was holding suddenly felt heavy in my hand. "What about Sarah?" "My buddy Samuel went camping this weekend up at Morrison Lake. Posted some pictures on social media about an hour ago. Your wife is in the background of one of them. And she's not with girls." The garage seemed to tilt slightly. I sat down on my workbench, suddenly needing the support. "What do you mean she's not with girls?" "I mean she's sitting next to some guy by a campfire, and they're close. Real close. I'm sending you the link right now." My phone buzzed with Joe's text. I opened the link with hands that had started trembling slightly. Samuel's Instagram story showed a group of people around a campfire. In the background, unmistakable despite the distance and firelight, was my wife. She was leaning against a man I didn't recognize, his arm around her shoulders, both of them laughing at something. "You still there?" Joe's voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Yeah." My voice was steady, which surprised me. "Thanks for calling." "Man, I'm sorry. I didn't know if I should." "You did the right thing." I was already screenshotting the image, my fingers moving with mechanical precision. "I appreciate it." "What are you going to do?" "Nothing right now. I'll call you later." I hung up and stared at the screenshot. My wife, who was supposed to be bonding with her girlfriends around a campfire, was bonding with someone else entirely. The camping gear I'd helped her buy, the story I'd believed, the trust I'd given freely. All of it was a carefully constructed lie. But here's what surprised me. I wasn't angry yet. I was cold, calculating, already planning. I went back inside and opened my laptop, started doing research. Samuel's Instagram was a gold mine. The man was a chronic oversharer who documented everything in real time. I spent the next 2 hours carefully saving every photo and story that showed my wife living a life I knew nothing about. There were more pictures. Sarah roasting marshmallows while sitting between this guy's legs. Sarah helping him set up a tent. Sarah sharing a beer with him while the sunset painted the sky behind them. In every image, they looked comfortable together. Familiar. Like this wasn't their first camping trip. I reverse-searched the guy's face using one of the clearer photos. Social media made people so wonderfully trackable. 20 minutes later, I had a name. Michael Chen, 34, marketing coordinator at a tech firm downtown. 2 clicks later, I found his LinkedIn profile, then his Facebook, then his Twitter. Michael Chen worked at Davidson & Associates, the same company where Sarah worked as a project manager. I sat back in my chair, pieces clicking into place with mechanical precision. This wasn't some random guy she'd met. This was someone from her daily life, someone she'd been seeing regularly while maintaining the fiction of our marriage. I remembered her mentioning Michael before. "There's this guy Michael at work who keeps trying to involve me in his projects. Kind of annoying, actually, always asking if I want to grab coffee to discuss strategy." She'd complained about him for months. Too pushy, too friendly, always finding excuses to collaborate. Now I understood what all that collaboration had actually involved. Going back through Samuel's posts chronologically, I found evidence of earlier trips. A hiking photo from 3 weeks ago that showed Sarah in the background. A beach bonfire from last month where she appeared in 2 different shots. How long had this been going on? How many girls' nights and work events had actually been dates with Michael? I printed everything. Every photo, every caption, every timestamp. Organized them chronologically in a folder like I was building a legal case. Which, I realized, I might be doing eventually. The most damning photo was the most recent one. Sarah and Michael sharing a sleeping bag, visible through the open flap of a tent. Her head was on his shoulder, both of them asleep. The caption read, "When camping brings people together. Hashtag Lake Life. Hashtag New Connections. Hashtag Weekend Vibes. New Connections." Right. I called Joe back. "Find anything interesting?" he asked. "His name is Michael Chen. He works with Sarah. This isn't their first trip together." "Shit, man. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to wait for her to come home tomorrow and continue lying to my face." "You're not going to call her? Confront her while she's there?" "No." My voice sounded different to my own ears. Colder. "She wants to play games. I'll play better." The rest of Saturday night, I sat in my living room making plans. I didn't drink, didn't pace, didn't throw anything. I just planned with the methodical precision of someone who'd been pushed past anger into something much more dangerous. Complete emotional detachment. By Sunday morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. I was sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and the newspaper when I heard Sarah's key in the front door. Right on schedule. 7:30 a.m., just like she'd said. "Honey, I'm home," she called out, her voice bright with fake cheerfulness. God, I'm exhausted. Sleeping on the ground is not as romantic as they make it seem in movies. I looked up as she walked into the kitchen, rolling a small suitcase behind her. She looked good. Rested, actually, despite her claims of exhaustion. Her skin had a healthy glow, her hair was clean and styled, and she was wearing makeup. Interesting camping results. "How was it?" I asked, turning a page of the newspaper without really reading it. "Oh, good to get away from everything. Rachel brought way too much wine, and Jennifer couldn't figure out how to work the camp stove." She laughed, the sound artificial in the quiet kitchen. "I missed you, though." She leaned down to kiss the top of my head, and I smelled it immediately. Men's cologne. Faint, but unmistakable. Not mine. "Missed you too," I said, my voice level. "Did you take any pictures?" "A few. My phone battery died pretty quickly, though. You know how bad the service is up there." "Right, the digital detox." She started unpacking her suitcase right there in the kitchen, pulling out dirty clothes and camping gear. Everything looked authentically used. Mud on the boots, ash stains on a sweatshirt, sleeping bag that smelled like campfire smoke. She'd really committed to the performance. "I'm going to jump in the shower," she said, gathering up some clean clothes. "Wash all this nature off me." "Take your time." The moment I heard the bathroom door close and the shower start running, I stood up from the table. I had maybe 20 minutes before she finished, and I intended to use every second. I went to our bedroom and pulled out the large duffel bags we kept in the closet. Started filling them with her clothes, toiletries, personal items. 8 years of shared life, and it was surprising how quickly her belongings separated from mine when you were motivated. I worked methodically, quietly. Underwear, work clothes, casual outfits, shoes, her jewelry box, her books, her laptop, her chargers, the framed photo of us from our honeymoon. I left that on the dresser. She could decide what to do with those memories. In her nightstand drawer, I found something interesting. A second phone. A cheap prepaid smartphone that I'd never seen before. The kind you buy when you don't want certain activities traced back to your main number. I powered it on. No password protection. Careless of her. The text history with Michael Chen went back 6 months. 6 months of planning secret trips, sharing inside jokes, sending photos I definitely didn't want to see. The most recent message was from yesterday. "Can't wait to do this again next weekend. I'll handle the campsite reservation. Next weekend." She was already planning her next lie. I put the phone in my pocket and continued packing. By the time I heard the shower turn off, both duffel bags were packed and sitting by the front door. I'd changed the deadbolt lock. Thank God for having a friend in the locksmith business who owed me a favor and worked on short notice. I printed out the clearest photo from Samuel's Instagram, the one of Sarah and Michael sharing the sleeping bag, and left it on top of her packed bags along with her car keys and phone charger. Then I sat down in my favorite chair in the living room and waited. The bathroom door opened, and I heard Sarah moving around upstairs, probably getting dressed and doing her hair. Normal morning routine for a woman preparing to lie to her husband about where she'd spent the weekend. "Babe, have you seen my phone charger?" she called down. "Check the living room," I replied. Footsteps on the stairs, then silence. I counted to 10 before I heard her voice. Different now. Confused. What is this?" I looked up from the magazine I'd been pretending to read. Sarah was standing next to her packed bags, holding the printed photo in one hand and her car keys in the other. Her face had gone completely white. "What's what?" I asked, my voice conversational. "These bags. This picture. What's going on?" I stood up slowly, like a man who had all the time in the world. "I figured since you enjoyed camping so much, you might want to do it again. But this time, you're doing it from the curb." She stared at the photo again, then at me. "This isn't what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks like my wife spent the weekend sleeping with her coworker while telling me she was bonding with girlfriends around a campfire." "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You're very good at making up stories." I walked to the front door and opened it. "But I'm not interested in hearing another one." "You can't just kick me out. This is my house too." "Actually, it's not. The house is in my name only. My inheritance money, my down payment, my mortgage. You're welcome to check with a lawyer if you'd like." This was true. When we'd bought the house 5 years ago, the inheritance from my grandfather had covered the down payment, and Sarah's credit hadn't qualified her for the mortgage. We'd planned to add her name to the deed eventually. We'd never gotten around to it. Besides, I continued, you don't seem to enjoy staying here very much anymore. You prefer camping. She looked at the photo again, and I saw the exact moment she realized how thoroughly she'd been caught. The color drained from her face even further. How did you find out? Your boyfriend Samuel is very active on social media, likes to document his adventures. You should probably tell Michael to ask his friends to be more careful about posting pictures of married women they're sleeping with. I pulled her second phone out of my pocket and held it up. You also left this in your nightstand. Very sloppy for someone who thought they were being so clever. Sarah stared at the phone in my hand like it was a bomb about to explode, which, in a way, it was. That's not mine, she said automatically, then immediately realized how stupid that sounded since I just pulled it from her nightstand. 6 months of text messages say otherwise. 6 months of planning trips, sharing jokes, coordinating lies. I scrolled through the messages briefly. My personal favorite is from last Tuesday when he asked what excuse you were going to use for this weekend, and you replied, the camping with girls story. He's so trusting he'll probably help me pack. The words hit her like physical blows. She sat down heavily on one of the duffel bags. I was right, by the way. I did help you pack. I even drove you to REI to buy the camping gear with my credit card. Please, she whispered, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been cheating on me for 6 months? That you used my money to buy equipment for your affair? That you looked me in the eye Friday morning and kissed me goodbye before driving off to sleep with another man? I shook my head. What exactly needs explaining? She started crying then, the kind of desperate sobbing that happens when someone realizes their world is collapsing. I felt nothing watching her fall apart. The man who would have comforted her, who would have held her while she cried, who would have wanted to work through problems together. That man had died Saturday afternoon when I saw the first photo. I never meant for this to happen, she said between sobs. You never meant to get caught. No, I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Sarah. You made choices. You chose to start something with Michael. You chose to lie to me about it. You chose to use my money to buy camping gear for your affair. You chose to look me in the eye every morning for 6 months and pretend to be my wife. I walked to the front door and opened it wider. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Michael's place? A hotel? Your sister's house? Frankly, it's not my problem anymore. She stood up on shaky legs, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. We can work through this. Couples therapy, counseling? No. But 8 years. 8 years that you threw away for 6 months with a coworker who posts your business on social media. I could see our neighbors starting to notice the commotion. Mrs. Patterson from next door was pretending to water her flowers while obviously listening to every word. Good. Let the whole neighborhood know what kind of woman Sarah really was. Please, she whispered one more time. I handed her the prepaid phone. Tell Michael I said hi, and next time you two go camping, maybe ask Samuel to be more careful with his Instagram stories. Sarah looked at the phone in her hand, then at her packed bags, then at me. I could see her brain working frantically, searching for some argument, some angle, some way to salvage what she'd destroyed. The morning sun was getting brighter, and more neighbors were starting to notice the drama unfolding on my front lawn. Mr. Rodriguez from across the street had come out to get his newspaper and was taking an unusually long time reading it. The Thompson family was loading their kids into their minivan for school, but the parents kept glancing over at the scene unfolding in front of my house. You're really going to throw away 8 years of marriage because of some pictures? I'm not throwing away anything. You already threw it away. I'm just acknowledging reality. Those pictures don't show everything. Michael and I were just friends who... I held up my hand to stop her. Don't. Don't insult me further by pretending this was innocent. I read your text messages. All of them. 6 months of planning trips, sharing inside jokes, Coordinating lies to tell me? I pulled out my phone and started reading directly from the screenshots I'd taken. March 15th, Michael, to you. Can't wait for our beach weekend. Told my roommate I'm visiting my parents. Your response? Perfect. I told my husband it's a work conference. He's even driving me to the airport. Sarah's face went from white to green. April 3rd, you to Michael. He wants to plan a romantic getaway for our anniversary. I feel so guilty. Michael's response, don't feel guilty. You deserve to be happy. We'll figure out how to make this work. Your response, you're right. I just need to be smarter about covering my tracks. I looked up from the phone. Covering your tracks. Very romantic way to describe lying to your husband. Please stop, she whispered. May 20th, Michael, to you. I love you. Your response, I love you too. I wish I could just leave him and be with you. Michael, why can't you? Your response, it's complicated. The house, the finances, the social stuff. Give me more time. Each message I read seemed to physically hurt her, like I was reading from her diary in front of a crowd, which, in a way, I was. The social stuff. That's what our 8-year marriage was to you. Social stuff that was complicated to untangle. By now, the Thompson kids were openly staring from their car windows, and Mrs. Thompson was making no effort to hurry them along. The whole neighborhood was getting a show, and Sarah was finally realizing it. Can we at least discuss this privately? She asked, glancing around nervously. You lost the right to privacy when you made our marriage a public embarrassment. Samuel's Instagram has 43 comments on that camping post. Apparently, people have been wondering who the married woman with the wedding ring was. Her hand flew to her left ring finger, which still wore the wedding band I'd placed there 8 years ago. She'd kept it on during her affair, probably thinking it made her look unavailable and therefore more exciting to Michael. Or maybe she just enjoyed the thrill of wearing her husband's ring while sleeping with someone else. Take it off, I said quietly. What? The ring. Take it off. You don't get to keep wearing it while you're screwing other men. She looked down at the ring like she'd forgotten it was there. Her hands were shaking as she tried to remove it. It stuck slightly. She'd gained a little weight over the years, and the ring that had slipped on easily at our wedding now required some effort to remove. Finally, she got it off and held it out to me with a trembling hand. I didn't take it. Keep it. Sell it. Give it to Michael as a trophy. I don't care. She let her hand drop to her side, still holding the ring. I saw the other photos too, I said. The ones from the beach trip where you kissed him against the sunset. Very cinematic. Samuel captioned it. Love is in the air at our company retreat. That's what you called it when you came home. A company retreat about quarterly projections. How did you find all this? You weren't as careful as you thought. When you're living a double life, eventually the two lives intersect. Samuel documented your entire affair without realizing it. I pulled out printed copies of more photos and text messages, organized chronologically in a manila folder like evidence for a trial. 6 months of hotel receipts charged to our joint credit card. 6 months of restaurant bills for 2 people during times you told me you were working late. 6 months of gas station charges in towns you had no reason to visit. I opened the folder and showed her the financial records I'd compiled. The Victoria's Secret charge in March, $200 for lingerie during your supposed lunch meeting with clients. The champagne and strawberry delivery to the Marriott in April, during your supposed visit to your mother. The couple's massage package at that spa in May, charged to our card while you were at your supposed work conference. Each revelation seemed to crush her further. She sat down heavily on one of the duffel bags, the printed evidence scattered around her like the wreckage of her carefully constructed lies. Last chance, I said. Pick up your bags and walk away quietly, or I start forwarding your text messages to everyone in your contact list, starting with your parents and working my way down to your coworkers. The threat worked. She looked around at the neighbors who were no longer pretending not to watch, then at the evidence of her deception scattered on the ground, then at me standing in the doorway of the house she'd never legally been entitled to. She bent down and picked up both duffel bags, struggling slightly with the weight. I'd packed everything she'd brought into our marriage, plus everything she'd accumulated during it. 8 years of shared life, reduced to 2 bags and a handful of lies. "This isn't over," she said, trying to recover some dignity as she walked toward her car. "Yes, it is." She loaded the bags into her trunk, fumbling with her keys, dropping them once on the driveway. I watched her hands shake as she tried to regain control of a situation that had spiraled completely beyond her management. Before getting in the car, she turned back to me one last time. "What about us? What about everything we built together? You tore down everything we built. I'm just clearing away the wreckage." She got in her car and drove away. She didn't look back, didn't wave, didn't make any final dramatic gestures. Just drove off to start whatever life she'd been planning while pretending to build one with me. The whole neighborhood went back to their morning routines, though I knew this story would be shared over backyard fences for weeks to come. I closed the front door and walked back to the kitchen to finish my now cold coffee, stepping over the scattered printouts of my former wife's secret life. I watched her load the bags into her trunk, get in her car, and drive away. She didn't look back, didn't wave, didn't make any final dramatic gestures. Just drove off to start whatever life she'd been planning while pretending to be my wife. The whole neighborhood went back to their morning routines, though I knew this story would be shared over backyard fences for weeks to come. I closed the front door and walked back to the kitchen to finish my now cold coffee. The silence in the house was different now. Not the comfortable quiet of a weekend morning, but the hollow emptiness of a life suddenly restructured. I sat at the kitchen table and tried to figure out what came next. I picked up the scattered printouts from the front yard, photos and text messages that had served their purpose. The evidence of Sarah's deception looked different now in the morning light, less like ammunition and more like artifacts from a life that had ended. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Sarah trying to call from her regular number. I sent it to voicemail without listening. Then text messages started coming in rapid succession. "Please answer your phone. We need to talk about this rationally. I'm staying at Jennifer's. Call me when you're ready to discuss this like adults. You can't just end 8 years like this. I'm coming back tonight to get more of my things. This is insane. You're being crazy." I blocked her number after the 6th message. Then I blocked her work email. Then I blocked her on every social media platform I could think of. The prepaid phone she'd forgotten on the counter buzzed with a message from Michael. "Hey, are you okay? You left pretty quickly this morning. Did something happen with your husband?" I typed back, "This is Sarah's husband. She won't be camping with you anymore, or doing anything else with you." The phone went silent after that. By noon, word had somehow gotten around to my friends and family. Joe called first. "Heard through the neighborhood grapevine that Sarah moved out this morning. Mrs. Patterson called my wife. Apparently it was quite a scene. You want company?" "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine. You sound like you're in shock." "I'm calm." "There's a difference." "What do you need?" "Nothing. It's handled." And it was handled. Sarah had made her choices, lived her double life, and gotten caught. I'd responded with surgical precision, removing her from my life with the same methodical approach I used to solve problems at work. No drama, no screaming, no begging, just consequences. By evening, the calls had multiplied. My mother called, having heard from Mrs. Patterson, who'd called her sister, who'd called my aunt, who'd called my mother. The neighborhood gossip network was more efficient than the internet. "Honey, what happened? Mrs. Patterson said Sarah left with suitcases this morning?" I gave her the abbreviated version. Wife was cheating, got caught, got asked to leave. Clean, simple, factual. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Do you want to come stay here for a few days?" "I'm fine, Mom. I'm staying here. But the house will be so empty." "The house is mine. Why would I leave?" Over the next few days, mutual friends tried to play mediator. Rachel, who apparently knew nothing about the camping lie and had actually been home all weekend working in her garden, called to ask if Sarah could stay with her while you two work things out. "There's nothing to work out," I told her. "Sarah was having an affair for 6 months. She used you as an alibi for a romantic camping trip with her coworker. Did you know about that?" Rachel was quiet for a long time. No. She told me you were being controlling and she needed space to think. What she needed was space to cheat. Feel free to give her all the space she wants. Sarah's sister Lisa called next, with a carefully rehearsed speech about the sanctity of marriage and the importance of forgiveness. I listened politely and explained that I forgave Sarah completely. Forgave her enough to let her go live her truth with Michael instead of living a lie with me. But you took vows, Lisa insisted, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, and to forsake all others. She broke her vows first. Everyone makes mistakes. 6 months of planning, lying, and cheating isn't a mistake. It's a lifestyle choice. Her parents called the next day, Jim and Margaret, who'd always treated me like a son. The conversation was harder because I actually respected them and knew they were genuinely trying to help. We don't understand what happened, Margaret said. Sarah came by yesterday crying, saying you threw her out over some misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding. She was having an affair. I have photos, text messages, credit card receipts, and hotel bookings going back 6 months. That doesn't sound like our Sarah. It didn't sound like my Sarah either, but that's who she chose to become. 2 weeks later, Sarah showed up at my workplace. Security called to ask if I wanted to see her. I declined. According to the security guard who knew me from my daily coffee runs, she waited in the parking lot for 3 hours before giving up. A month later, I heard through the office grapevine that Sarah and Michael had made their relationship Facebook official. Jennifer, who worked in HR and lived for workplace gossip, made sure I knew. "Are you okay with that?" she asked, clearly hoping for some dramatic response. Good for them. They deserve each other, and I meant it. They deserved a relationship built on deception and betrayal. They deserve the constant worry about whether someone who cheats with you will cheat on you. They deserve to wonder if their partner was capable of looking them in the eye and lying for months at a time. 3 months later, I ran into Samuel at a restaurant downtown. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, having what looked like a first date dinner. When he saw me, he looked mortified. "Hey man," he said, approaching my table. "I need to apologize. I had no idea Sarah was married when I posted those camping photos. If I'd known." "Actually," I told him, "you did me a favor. Better to know the truth than live a lie." He seemed relieved that I wasn't angry with him. Still, I feel terrible about the whole thing. Don't. You documented someone else's choices. That's not your responsibility. 6 months later, I got divorce papers in the mail. Sarah wanted half of everything, claiming she'd contributed to our partnership and deserved compensation for her investment in our shared life. She wanted half the house, half my retirement account, half my savings, and monthly spousal support for 3 years. I forwarded the papers to my lawyer along with printed copies of all her text messages with Michael, the credit card statements showing charges for their affair, and the hotel bookings she'd made using our joint accounts. We settled out of court 2 months later. She got her personal belongings, her car, and the debt from the camping gear she'd bought for her affair. Her lawyer tried to argue that adultery shouldn't affect property division in a no-fault divorce state. My lawyer reminded him that using marital funds to conduct an affair was considered financial infidelity and could affect settlement terms. Sarah ended up with nothing except her freedom and a lesson about the financial consequences of treating marriage like a hobby rather than a commitment. A year later, I heard through the same office gossip network that Sarah and Michael had broken up. Apparently, relationships built on deception don't have strong foundations. Who could have predicted that? The details came from Jennifer, who'd heard it from someone in Michael's department. Apparently, Sarah had discovered that Michael was messaging other women on dating apps, including several married women from their office building. When she confronted him about it, he'd told her she was being hypocritical. "You cheated on your husband with me," he'd reportedly said. "Why are you surprised that I'm talking to other women?" Turns out that men who pursue married women aren't typically looking for committed relationships. Another life lesson learned the expensive way. I never responded to Sarah's attempts to reconnect after her breakup with Michael. She called from different numbers, sent letters, even showed up at places she knew I frequented. I changed my habits, ignored the calls, threw away the letters unopened. People sometimes ask if I'm bitter about losing 8 years of marriage to someone who turned out to be a stranger living a double life. I tell them I'm not bitter at all. I'm grateful. Grateful that social media exists to document people's poor decisions. Grateful that I learned the truth before wasting more years on someone who didn't value what we had. Grateful that I discovered I was stronger than I thought and could handle betrayal with dignity instead of destruction. 2 years later, I started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just dinner dates and casual companionship. I was upfront about my divorce, about what had happened, about my trust issues and commitment concerns. The right woman understood. The wrong ones moved on quickly, probably looking for someone with less baggage and more willingness to ignore red flags. I was fine with that screening process. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who couldn't handle the truth about infidelity and its consequences. 3 years after Sarah left, I met Emma at a bookstore. She was reading the same novel I'd just finished, and we ended up talking for 2 hours about plot structure and character development. When I asked for her number, she said yes, but made it clear she wasn't looking for anything casual. "I don't have time for games," she said. "I'm looking for a real partnership or nothing at all." That was exactly what I wanted to hear. We dated for a year before moving in together. Took our time, built trust gradually, talked openly about past relationships and future expectations. When I told her about Sarah and the camping trip deception, she listened without judgment and asked thoughtful questions about how I'd processed the betrayal. "You handled it well," she said. "A lot of people would have lost their dignity in that situation." Dignity was all I had left. I wasn't going to give that up too. We got engaged on the 4th anniversary of Sarah's departure. Not because the timing was symbolic, but because we'd spent 4 years building the kind of relationship that Sarah and I had never had. One based on honesty, trust, and genuine partnership. Emma moved into the house that Sarah had never legally owned but had helped make into a home. We redecorated completely, changing everything from the paint colors to the furniture arrangement. By the time we were finished, there were no traces of my previous marriage except the lessons I'd learned about the importance of paying attention to red flags. Sarah wanted a weekend under the stars with her new romance. She got a one-way trip to the sidewalk and a lesson in the consequences of treating marriage like a convenience instead of a commitment. And me? I got my self-respect back and the knowledge that I'd rather be alone than be with someone who could look me in the eye every morning while living a lie. Best trade I ever made. The house is different now, filled with Emma's laughter and the honest quiet of a relationship built on trust rather than deception. No lies hiding in the silence. No deception lurking behind casual conversations about weekend plans. Just the peaceful contentment of a life lived on honest terms. Sometimes in the evening, Emma and I sit on the back deck where Sarah and I used to watch sunsets, and I think about choices. How we all make them, every day, often without realizing their full consequences. Sarah chose 6 months of excitement over 8 years of commitment. She chose lies over truth, deception over honesty, camping with Michael over staying home with me. I chose to respond with precision instead of emotion. I chose to remove myself from her game rather than try to win it. I chose dignity over drama. And in the end, we both got exactly what we chose. 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 What we chose.